right, like I said, tonight we have Ethel is going to give her testimony, and going to have Leslie come up here and introduce her.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leslie. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. God has delivered me from drugs, alcohol for 11 years and 10 months, and nicotine about 6.5 years. I have daily victory over my mental health. I've been privileged to sponsor Ethel for 3 years now.
Go on.
And when there's so many, I didn't write anything down, and I'm better when I write things down. But when I think of God's redemption and God's transformation, that's Ethel. Ethel lights up a room. I know she has to light up this room, but any room that she walks in, she lights up. I have never sponsored someone that just took the recovery by the horns and just did anything that was asked of her, just her step work and just doing what's required of recovery. Not only that, watching her passion for the Lord and watching her dive into her word and do the things that she does, not only in her personal life, but in her professional life. I couldn't get my word. It's just been such an honor to sponsor you. And not only that, she's a sister, a friend, and sometimes sometimes she's kind of like a mother to me. Hey, you shouldn't be doing that. And so, it works both ways. And I could say so much more, but I hope that you get the joy out of her testimony and see that transformation and what God has done for her, He can do for anyone. Thank you.
Okay. I'm a bit nervous. Okay. Hi, my name is Ethel. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. So God has delivered me from drugs, alcohol, and the lifestyle. So I'm going to go on with my testimony. Okay. So I grew up in an abusive home where my father would get drunk and rage. Sometimes he would hit my mother and it would break my heart. I felt like we had to walk on eggshells the moment he got home to keep the peace and not upset him. At the time, I felt fear, anger, and anxiety. My father worked and my mother was a stay-at-home mom. I grew up poor. We only got what we needed. My parents had little education and it was hard to do schoolwork because they could not help. I would get home with bad grades and get punished. It was very confusing. I remember when I was 7, a police officer came to our house to tell my parents that my oldest brother was found dead. This is when my life turned upside down. Along this time, I was molested by a family friend. I kept it a secret to not cause any more pain from my family. My mother was already sad and always crying. My father drank more and more. I felt scared and worried at the age of 11 or 12, we would steal my father's beer and hide in the woods to drink. I thought that it was okay because it was what I saw growing up. Beer made me feel amazing. Soon after, I started using weed with my friends and cousins. All my feelings went away, and I felt free in my sick way of thinking. By the time I was 17, I was skipping school and going to house parties. Now Xanax was added to the mix. Now I was free from all worries, insecurities, and all the stuff I did while high. At 17, I quit school to hang out with friends and use all day. This was the beginning of my addiction. By this time, Dad was sober, and I would come in high and cause problems. The police were called, and I could no longer stay with them. My family disowned me. I was 18 years old on the street, living from friend to friend. I was in and out of jail and unemployed. I stole whatever I needed to survive. I was raped during this time. I stayed at this one house and was unaware that it was a crack house. I felt that people there understood me. They knew I had no place to go and let me stay. At the age of 20, I was introduced to crack cocaine. Now I felt nothing. I did anything and everything to get my next high. I would stay out all night in the streets and get more. I was still in and out of jail, prostituting, stealing, and robbing. I was almost killed. I stole the guy's stash. He put a gun in my face, and I remember thinking, God help me, my life is over. He hit me so hard that I could not eat for weeks. I was scared for my life. My life was insane. I kept doing the same thing over and over. At this point, I did not care if I lived or died. All I wanted to do is get high. I had nothing going for me. I had no education, job, family, or friends. I only had the streets and the drugs. I got charge after charge and would never go to court. After a while, I was caught and put on probation. I soon had another felony charge and was sent to prison at the age of 22. I remember being on the van and being scared. I heard stories about prison, some good, some bad. My stomach was in knots, not knowing where I was going or what to expect. Like all other times in my life, I adjusted quickly. I know this is crazy, but jail was home to me. I had a hard bed, 3 meals, a shower, and a few buddies while I was there. I attended a wonderful church. I said that when I went home that I would quit smoking crack. I was done. I did not know God at the time, but I believed. I was released 18 months later, and I can say that I have never smoked crack cocaine again. I was unaware that I was addicted to the lifestyle. I was on parole and back in the streets this time using PCP. My parole officer found me and was so upset. She said that she was sending me back to prison. I broke down and told her that I needed help. Jail was only a place to stay, and I knew that I could not do this on my own. She sent me to a 6-month rehab in Shreveport. This was my first rehab. I was scared and did not know what to expect. My life changed, and I started learning about my addiction. I found a job in an apartment. I was in an apartment. I was introduced to this small church in Shreveport. This is when I truly found God. I cannot explain the I cannot explain what I felt when I walked in, but tears fell from my eyes. It was so amazing. I was going to church and working the program without a sponsor. Things were good for a while until I met a guy who knew so much about God, and he taught me things that I was confused about. We lived together for about 4 years. We stopped going to meetings in church. We thought we had it under control. One day I found him drinking and it broke my heart. I thought he was perfect and that he would help me stay sober. I would fuss and fight with him until I finally gave in. I started drinking all day and all night. I stopped doing everything that I did in the beginning to stay sober. My life was becoming unmanageable again. My life was turned upside down. My drinking led me to seeking out pills. Again, we argued all the time, and he called the police. I had enough, and I moved back to Lafayette to live with my brother. I did find employment, but was secretly using. One day I could not get my drug of choice and was offered meth. At first, I said no way. After a few drinks, I tried it and fell in love. I had energy to take on the world, so I thought. I was in and out of jail, homeless, and had lost everything all over again. Each time that I went to jail and rehab, I learned more about my addiction, and I started building my relationship with God while in jail. I, I would be reminded of Philippians 4:11. I have learned to be content wherever the circumstance. God, God, telling myself, God, what are you trying to tell me? All I know is that my faith grew stronger and I was reading and learning God's word. I did not think that I had a chance to go home. By the grace of God, I was released in 2018, a 4-time convicted drug felon. The conditions of my parole were drug court in Oxford. The first 6 months, things were good, and I was doing all that I was supposed to, but something was missing. Now I know that it was a connection and relationship with God that was missing, and I had not fully surrendered. 6 months in, I met a guy in Oxford, in Oxford House, and he was giving me attention and telling me all the things that I wanted to hear. I knew something was off with him, but looked past it. I loved him, and he loved me. And and we were going to help each other stay sober. Yeah, right. I did not know that he was using while in Oxford. After 6 months, we got a place together. What a mistake. 3 days later, he was passed out with a bag of synthetic and meth next to him. One part of me said flush it. The other part said no one will know if you just use a little. I did not use the tools that was taught. I had not talked to my sponsor in months, so I used the meth and decided to worry about drug court and my consequences later. I had a bright idea that I could beat the system and use someone else's urine. Eventually, it caught up with me. I was sent to jail for 3 days and court ordered to move back into sober living. It was the best thing that could have ever happened. I picked back up with my recovery and boyfriend went to jail. I was still in a relationship with him, believing his lies and that he would change. I was going with the flow and doing the bare minimum to get by. I did not use my sponsor or attend meetings regularly. I eventually moved back in with my dad to save money. By this time, I had a car and was almost done with the program. And then my boyfriend gets out of jail. We got another place together and worked opposite shifts. One day I found his paraphernalia and he promised that he was not doing anything. Minutes after graduating drug court, I get into my car and the boyfriend shows me a pill and says, "This is how we can celebrate." I was still working and saving money. I thought that it would be different this time. I would be able to control it. I got into an accident and collected some money. I bought a trailer and another car. I was still working, and then my mom got sick. She is my heart, my best friend. It all happened so fast, and she passed away. My mom was my world, the only person I loved so much. I held it together for a little while until I lost it. I was using every day, all day. I was unemployed and selling drugs to pay bills. I was back in the lifestyle. I felt lost, hurt, and empty. Instead of turning to God like I knew I should, I turned back to what I knew, the drugs and streets. I was miserable again, just existing and not living. I thought the drugs would help me cope, but it was making me into someone I did not recognize. I was hurting people around me. I was doing them wrong, saying ugly things and stealing. I remember that my godchild brought some friends over. They did not believe in God and were watching documentaries that tried to say that God was not real. I remember fussing and complaining for them to turn that off in my house until one day I sat down and watched it with them. I had a relationship with God and knew what He can do, but I allowed the enemy to take over my mind. A part of me started to think that God was not real. At this point, I was scared all the time and did not want to look in the mirror. I started seeing and feeling things in my house, particularly one night, can't say it, in my bed. I thought I was going crazy, but when my dog barked in the same direction that I was seeing things, all my faith came back. I started screaming the Lord's Prayer until it was gone. God knew that a piece of my heart was still with Him. My family thought I was crazy and was losing my mind, and they wanted me in a mental institution. I remember very vividly running down the street to get away from them and crying out to God. Something came over me, and I remembered Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. I asked the Lord what to do, and what do I have to do? He said, trust me and stop giving it to me and taking it back. I was still running and screaming. I said, okay, God, you got this. I would do anything. After that, I felt peace. I did not know that my neighbors called the police and I went to jail for warrants. December 4th, 2022 is the day that I will never forget. I hit my knees and cried out to God, please take the desire to do drugs. I cannot keep living like this. I need you, God. I surrender. The next day, I wrote to chaplain and received the Bible. Now I spent all my time reading and praying. Normally, I would pray for God to just open the doors and let me out. This time it was different. I was seeking God from my heart. let me tell you how good God is. I had a hold and was not supposed to go to court until April. I went to court within a few weeks and was accepted back into drug court for a second time. This was God's work, and I thanked him. I was released to Woodlake. I remember meeting Bertrand and Miss Patricia. Miss Patricia drove me to Abbeville that day and said she normally does not do that. She normally doesn't drive. This is nothing but God. She does not know her sharing lived experience inspired me and touched my heart deeply. She shared how she attended Celebrate Recovery in church and that it changed her life. I graduated Woodlake and asked my counselor about this sober house called Safe House. I wanted a faith-based transitional living house and was accepted February 5th of that year. I put, 2023. My life has changed completely. I started coming to CR in church. I remember everyone singing and praising, and I asked God, was I in the right place? Soon after, a guy gave his testimony, the very first one that I heard. His story was similar to mine. When it came to seeing things, it hit me hard that I was in the right place and where I was supposed to be. Shortly after that, I asked Leslie to sponsor me. She said yes, but that I had to commit to coming to CR in church weekly and call her daily. I ran with that. With the help of God and my sponsor and CR and church, I have now almost 3 years clean. I completed the steps in CR and continue to work on my life with a good heart daily. None of this would be possible without CR and church. If you are new and wondering if you are in the right place, trust me, you are. I strongly suggest that you get a sponsor and work the steps. It is freeing. Today I have peace. I got rid of all that junk I covered for so long. Today I stand on the promise that God restores what was broken. In November, sorry, I'm back up. For many years, addiction had a stronghold on my life. I was lost. For many years, addiction had a stronghold on my life. I was lost. I was lost. I'm sorry, y'all. I lost direction, confidence, hope, and there were moments when I truly believed my past would define my future. But even in the darkest seasons, God never took his hand off my life. When I couldn't see a way forward, he was always preparing one. There, I'm gonna read scripture. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have come to pass. Behold, all things have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Today I stand on the promise that God restores what was broken. In November, Adam and I opened a women's sober living house, created a safe, faith-centered space for women to heal and grow and reclaim their lives. I am also blessed with opportunities to travel and see parts of the world I have never imagined. I'd experience a reminder that sobriety doesn't shrink life, it expands it. Through recovery and faith, I began rebuilding my life one step at a time. I earned my GED, something I once thought was out of reach, and it reminded me that it's never too late to start again. God opens doors. God opened doors professionally as well, allowing me to step into my promotion as a reentry lead, and I serve others like myself. They come from prison. So I get to serve others, walking on the same road I once walked because I have lived experience. I can meet people with compassion, honesty, and hope, showing them that transformation is possible. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. Proverbs 16:3. Today I feel loved and that I am somebody. I am blessed to be up here telling my testimony and hopefully touch at least one heart. Remember, I'm a 5-time convicted felon. If I can do this, you can too. I know that I know that with my faith in God, the sky is the limit. Always remember Proverbs 16:3. Before you do anything, put your trust totally in God and not in yourself. Then every plan that you make will succeed. All the other times I tried to get sober, I put my trust in myself and not fully in God. I have tried different AA and NA groups, still attended those meetings, but nothing was freeing. Nothing freed me like working CR and having God in my life. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Nothing is impossible with God. I give thanks to CR, to God, and to my church. And that's it.